Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. My name is Dan Pannachio, your host for today. And with me today, I have Sal Marino, who's a well-known model train enthusiast. How you doing, Sal?
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Okay.
Good.
I guess to start off with, we're going to talk about the best track to use for model railroading.
Okay, well, if you're going to talk about HO&N, which are kind of different than Lionel, so we'll concentrate on HO&N. And the best track,
Those are two different scales.
right, HO is like this size, and it's the most popular size. And the track looks like this. And N gauge is about half the size. The track looks the same, but it's about half the size. And the answer to your question is depends on what you're going to do. If you're going to build a temporary layout and you just want to put it on a 4x8, then you could use sectional track, which is a piece about this size,
4x8
piece of
board?
plywood.
Plywood.
And you can use sectional track. If you're not going to use plywood, if you're just going to put it on the floor, they now make track that has a plastic base, and that plastic base snaps together, so it's much more stable. And you could put that on a floor, and even N gauge you could put on the floor and run. Whereas years ago they didn't have that, and you really needed Lionel because it was bigger and bulkier, and you could put that on the floor.
Right.
If you're going to build a permanent layout, they have what's called flex track, which are 3-foot pieces. And they're joined together, and you could bend them, and you can make any design you want. So if you're going to make something like 2 4x8s together, or
You can bend.
yeah,
you can
flexible
bend the
track is bendable. Yeah,
Really?
it'd be like this, and you could actually take it and bend it, and straighten it out, so you could make it any curve that you want. Sometimes you only need a little bit of a curve going into something, depending on your track plan. So that's the basics. If you're going to have just a small temporary layout, you want the sectional track with the plastic base. If you're going to do it permanent, you pretty much want the flex track because it gives much more flexibility in making a layout. You're not limited to the curves that they make in the sectional track.
Well, I remember when I was a kid, I had Lionel trains, and we didn't have flat foot. We had rugs everywhere.
Right. Well, Lionel is
Yeah.
big, and
Right.
you could put Lionel even till today. I mean, that's why it's different than here's a piece of HO and here's a piece of Lionel.
Right.
And this is the smallest Lionel. Lionel makes heavier track than this too, but everything runs on the same track.
But the train ran okay, but then when you have a little sister,
Oh, they
that
kick in and
walks on the track.
Right.
I'd like the tire on the track and let the train go over.
Yeah.
No, but
And
anyway.
they used to pick up all the lint off the rug too.
Yeah.
And suck it into the motor and all that kind of
my
stuff.
God. That brings up another. How do you maintain track?
Well, today, years ago when we started, all the track was brass. And brass track oxidized, and the oxidation did not conduct electricity. So you would have almost a rust on top of the track, and you would have to clean that religiously. Otherwise, the trains wouldn't run.
And this was brass, you said?
Brass track.
Well,
Now
it'd
they
be
switched
valuable.
over to nickel silver, which is an alloy of brass.
Mm-hmm.
And nickel silver oxidized, but the oxidation conducts electricity, so you don't have to erase it down, but it still gets dirty. And
Yes.
so you have to wipe it to get the dust off it.
I've seen that at various train shows.
Yes,
I've
a
been
lot of
at
times
where
they even have a
they-
stick with a pad on a thing, and they can go along the track and clean it that way.
Just put a train on. Oops. Put a train on and put this.
Well, yeah, they do have track cleaning cars and stuff
Yeah?
like that.
Oh, boy.
They even have track cleaning cars that contain a liquid. and that liquid goes on the track and it drags along, and
Yeah.
they weight the car so it's heavier and there's like a sponge under it, and they clean it that way. So, but the whole layout, if you're not using a lot, I guess you got to use like a drop cloth or something to cover it, because everything gets dusty eventually,
Yeah.
and there's no getting away from that no matter what.
Well, you had mentioned that they put them together now with plastic on the base.
Oh, they use the insulation now, the foam insulation,
Yes.
which is there's different kinds, but the main one that the railroaders use is 2 inches thick, and it comes in a 2 foot by 8 foot sheet. You can buy it at Home Depot, Lowe's, places like that.
Another question: should train track be soldered if you're having a permanent layout?
Permanent layout, yes, it's recommended. You need it more today because there's something new today that we didn't have years ago. It's called Dcc Controls. And what that is each locomotive is controlled individually rather than the track being energized. So it's more susceptible to problems and stuff like that. So you really have to have the track soldered so that the power is one continuous loop.
Okay, and we also have a short clip. Well, short clip, a 9-minute clip of a very nice train setup that a friend of ours has. But before we go to that, I'd like to ask you, how far advanced has the model train industry gone?
Well, if you're talking about technically, it's gone quite advanced. They have something, as I just mentioned, about DCC, where you control each individual locomotive as opposed to powering a section of track and whatever was in that section of track ran. Now you can power an individual locomotive, and they have sound, and they go so far as they have the specific sound that real life locomotive makes is put into the model. So if you have a model of a particular steam locomotive, the model makes the exact same sound as the real life steam locomotive makes. They take these off of old movie footage, or if the train is still around, they go out and actually record the sound of that particular train, and they put it into these little chips that they put into the train. It's advanced. Even, the locomotives are so detailed, you almost can't touch them because they're so fragile, because they put so much detail on them. Back in the days when I was in business, we started out selling freight cars for $1.50 each. Those same freight cars today are maybe anywhere from $35, $45, $55, but they're not exactly the same. They may look the same from a distance, but when you look at them close up, they're much more detailed. They have everything is put onto that thing, and usually they're applied afterwards, so they're not molded in like a ladder is not molded in with the plastic. It's actually applied afterwards. So that's why they're so expensive.
I see. Well, getting back to the train sounds, okay? When I was working many years ago, I was near a train yard on the job, and I had an interest in trains, like I still do today. And I actually took tape recordings of the trains going by. It was beautiful. I loved it. I took hours and hours of it, okay? And I used it to my advantage one time. I'm making a little confession here. I was late for work, and I had to call in because I had a field job. I was out in the field, and I had to call in. So I called in, and my boss was on the phone, and he's talking to me. He says, "Are you on the job?" I says, "Yeah," and I put the recording on. I says, and he's listening. "Oh my God, those trains are close, aren't they?" I says, "Yeah." But anyway, getting back to what we're actually talking about. I guess we'll go to the roll-in now, okay? That's myself interviewing Bobby Grippo in his home. Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Pannachio, and we're here today with
Bob Grippo.
And we came here to see his train layout. Bob, how long have you been involved in trains?
Since a little kid, back in the 50s, with O-gauge setup my father used to put up every Christmas time.
Lionel?
Lionel, yeah.
I know there was American Flyer. And
no, he was Lionel, and it was only Christmas time, and then we got our taste of it. And once I got it, that was it. Once I got married, I started my own layouts in HO gauge, which this one is. And this one's about 35 years old. I probably laid off of it, did nothing to it for maybe 27 years. Then grandkids came, and they liked it, so I got back into it. And it's been a pleasure.
It's quite an extensive layout here, right? Took you a long time to do this.
Yeah, it takes time to do each section. You pick a crazy spot you want to try and build up and make it look good, and you work on it for weeks, months, it depends.
And where did you start? I mean, what did you initially start off with? The tracks, the...
You start out with your tracks. I wasn't a crazy person to worry about wiring, which I should have, because once you start doing your scenery, everything else is in your way. But I started out tracks, 3 trains that could run individually, and once I started in my scenery, I liked that better. I like building things, building the bridges, building the mountains, decorating the sceneries, putting the people in. Any little thing I see, if I see something at my shop or something on the floor, if it relates to the size I need, I'll put it on my layout. And it's crazy, but it's true.
Okay, and you started off, you knew just exactly what type of board you needed?
I did.
Wood? This is wood, right?
This is a plywood laid out 4x8 sheet, and then I put a couple extensions on it over the years. The last extension is on the other side of this layout now.
4x8 sheet?
This was an original 4x8, but it's now 6x9. And that last section is probably 2x4, 2x3, which is the rail yard that I put on about 3 years ago, 3 years ago. So, and then started detailing it, putting the houses on it, buildings on it.
Okay, and the mountains?
The mountains are all plaster and old wire screening, copper wire screening that I had found down my other basement. And
you formed this?
I formed all of them and then just put the plaster on top and then colored them with concrete dye and foam, little stuff around it, and just detailed it from there.
You have to be a little bit of an artist here then.
Or a little crazy, either one. Yeah. Takes a little bit of everything.
And the trees and the buildings, where did you acquire those?
All those trees I made. The trees on that other end of the layout were weeds that were at the end of the season. And if you didn't catch them right, you didn't get that 3 or 4 little blossoms that you could turn into make it look like a tree. These are all little trees that I found.
These are actual...
These are weeds. Some of them are store-boughts that I've worked on and altered, but these here are all weeds. The ones over there are weeds. The ones in the front end are all weeds that I decorated.
But how did you, I mean, you know, weeds eventually...
I could just see it. If I see... These were all brown, dried out weeds. And
And how do you...
I just painted them, dyed them, and then formed them into what they are.
And they stay like that, huh? You spray them?
Yeah, that's old. This section is removable, so you can work on it. And if you want it in the layout, not. My decision was to either put it there and leave it, or take it up and put more buildings in that area, or a different scene. I like different scenes. I've got 4 or 5 different scenes on this layout. If I see something I like, if I can incorporate it, I'll put it on my on my layout.
Mm-hmm.
It works for me.
And you acquired a lot of the buildings from a local shop
From
in Staten
a
Island?
friend hobby shop owner.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
On Staten Island.
I see.
A long time ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Who happens to be here today.
Yes, Mr. Sal Marino. Yeah, at least 35 years ago, right? It's been a while.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff laid in boxes, and I didn't touch them. And like I showed Sal a little while ago, I built another kit that I bought 35 years ago, but I had nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I had nothing to do, but I wanted to do something for it, and took it upstairs, built it in my dining room.
And what would you say is the average time, if you can determine an average time to building?
There's a building in the front of the layout
Mm-hmm.
that's a plaster kit, and
A plastic kit or a plaster kit?
plaster kit.
Uh-huh.
It's what do they call that, Sal? It's not
Downtown Deco,
downtown deco kit. It's
Hydrocal.
hydrocal, and took me 3 months to build that. But it comes, it's pure white. You put it together and then you decorate it, light it, or whatever. So that's right in the front.
That's a skill in itself. Like I told you.
All these bridges came in little boxes with just pieces. And then if they weren't like this, that trestle that's across, there's 2 bridges I built over there. They were a kit that I kit bashed, and all the trestles I built.
Mm-hmm.
So takes a long time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can't put hours into it. You know, you put a couple hours in, you got to walk away. You could get frustrated, or you could just keep going. If it's enjoyable, keep going.
Well, I'd love something like this myself in my place, but you know, I think after a week, I'd say no.
Yeah, well, it could be discouraging. But it's well, I have grandkids, and they make me more alive again. They want you to Peepaw, do this, show me that, show me this, and they just love it. So it brings warmth to my heart. So I like it. Gets me closer to them.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the stuff, you buy anything online or just?
I've been purchasing engines online, some steam engines, some diesels, and that's what my kids will get me for the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll go online and purchase them. There's really not many stores around that you can, not in this area anyway, that you can go to a hobby shop and get HO or O gauge or N gauge equipment.
I've passed by through, I forget the roads in Pennsylvania where they have large hobby places. Oh,
Sorry about that.
there's one coming in now.
Yeah. My problem is I don't have time. I work 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So once I'm done, I'm either tired or it's late. So if I want to get an hour or so down here, I can get an hour away from everything.
Uh-huh.
Man, it's my escape. It works for me.
Okay. Any of you guys have any particular questions you want to ask? Bobby? Bobby? Is that?
It's fine.
Huh?
No, I'm just enjoying looking at it,
Uh-huh.
taking it all in.
Well, okay. I guess we'll see it run. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
My pleasure.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that little clip. And thank you, Bobby, for allowing us to come into your home and letting us see your beautiful setup there. It kind of brings out the kid in you, you know?
Yeah.
It's really...
Well, he's worked on that layout for quite a few years, and that's what he does. He has a stressful job, and when he goes home, he just goes down in and loses himself in the layout.
Right.
And it gives you a chance to de-stress. And I know I did it, and when I was in business, a lot of my customers, we had a lot of doctors and lawyers and other people with all kinds of stressful jobs. they would get into trains because you lose yourself in what you do, and you forget all this real things that are going on. This is a whole model railroad is actually a fantasy for most people. You make a layout, it's what you remember maybe, or things like that.
What type of stressful job does Bob have? What does he do generally?
He owns an auto body shop, and he has a lot of people that work for him. And it's not like the old days. The cars have to get in and out within a certain amount of time, because there's like rental cars involved and all that. And if you don't get the car out in time, the insurance company only pays for the rental for so many days.
Yes.
So they give you, when a car comes in, the insurance company will give you 2, 3, 4 days to get that car complete. And you got to round up parts and all that kind of stuff, and it's got people working for him, everybody. So it's any business where you have people working for you is very stressful.
Yeah.
So this way he goes home and he unwinds. And he's got nice. If we can maybe now see them run.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't we do that? Can we see the layout, the running now, please, David? Thank you, David.
can see it from the side.
Wasn't that an amazing setup? I'll tell you, Bob, that was great. I loved it. I mean, you know, it just takes your imagination as
That's why a layout like that is a lot of work, but when you see it like that, it makes it worthwhile.
Oh, it was fantastic. That is great. Thank you, Bob, for letting us into your home to see that. Okay, one more question I have. Does the model train hobby have a future?
Hard question to answer because it really it doesn't look like it has a real big future because young children don't seem to be interested in model trains anymore. When I was young in grammar school, a lot of the kids have trains, and now with all the computer games and all that kind of stuff, there really isn't much of an interest in model trains. And the median age of model railroad is getting older and older and older.
Yeah.
And as somebody, you don't even have to die anymore. It used to be when you died, that was the end. But now, when you're getting older and you start downsizing and you go to a retirement community, there's no room for a train layout. So even the older folks are getting out of it.
Yeah.
And there's no new people. There are some. I don't want to say there are no young model railroads, but they're few and far between.
Well, I can remember a story that a man told me one time at his college. The fraternity that he belonged to, they had a nice model train setup. Okay, this is many years ago. And they actually hired someone to maintain the model train setup. And he was a college student also at the time. They were paying him something like $200 a week. And he did this for years and years and years.
Well,
that's all he liked to do.
Yeah.
He never even graduated college. He just did this.
Had a ball. He was getting paid for doing what he loved.
Yeah.
When I was in business, we used to have a lot of clubs, but they're not, you can't have them anymore because of the rents. Say goodbye. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully it does have more of a future. Okay, we're going to go now. Hope you enjoyed the show, and there'll be more coming up soon, hopefully. This was only part 2. Who knows how many. Good night. Good night, Sal.
Good night. Good night, everybody.